I think for me, I was, first of all, shocked at the topic. This is the first book I've ever read on grief. And I think primarily that's because I was under the false assumption that like I didn't have anything to grieve about. I hadn't really had any massive loss in my life. And so what I loved was reading this and how they defined grief as so many different things in life. And it made me realize, oh my gosh, like everybody I know is grieving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Including
Yeah.
me. Yes.
Can people relate? I don't know if everybody can relate to it, but parental rights, like giving up your parental rights. That is so huge. What a wound and what a loss. I mean, I know people would talk about feeling abandoned by a parent, but like literally legally. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would feel like for a child.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of 8's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Boozeless Book Club with Amy Liz Harrison and Erin Lane. And Amy Liz and I have been doing, I think we've done 3 so far of the Boozeless Book Club. And we've got a guest today, our friend Erin, that's going to be talking about the book today. So welcome, you two. And yes, it's so great to have you here. And today we are going to be talking about grief, which everybody can relate to. And we're going to be discussing, I'm going to hold it up, the Grief Recovery Handbook. And it was written by John James and Russell Friedman, an action program for moving beyond death, divorce, and other losses. And all the books I've read on grief over the years, I found this one the most helpful. So we're going to break it down and talk about our experience and what came up for us and what was helpful, what was not. And so who wants to start it off with? What did they think of the book? What were the first things you noticed? Whoever wants to start.
I was completely blown away right from the jump where we were reading about completing a loss, completing the pain. I'd never heard those 2 words used together in a sentence ever. And I found so much hope in that. But it was like I got hit by the fear truck. Like, what else can I possibly do with these losses that I've been carrying? I found it equally hopeful as fearful. Like I never knew there was anything else other than just to feel the loss. It really opened up a whole new world to me, one that I never would have thought I needed this.
Yes.
And I can't even tell you how helpful it's been.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think for me, I was, first of all, shocked at the topic. This is the first book I've ever read on grief. And I think primarily that's because I was under the false assumption that like I didn't have anything to grieve about. I hadn't really had any massive loss in my life. And so what I loved was reading this and how they defined grief as so many different things in life. And it made me realize, oh my gosh, like everybody I know is grieving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Including me.
Yes. I mean, I totally, both of you, absolutely true. I mean, the idea that, wow, I even have all this grief and putting a name to it and what he talks about with the timeline, which we'll get into, how he even helps us to identify our grief. And that it's not just about losing a parent or a death of someone close to you. There are so many other definitions of grief. And like you said, yes, we are all going through it probably all the time because we're all having transitions of all kinds, whether it's a job or the loss of a relationship or a friendship or a child going off to college or whatever it is.
Oh, that empty nest.
Yes, the empty nest.
Truly.
Absolutely. That's new. All right. So, Erin, it sounds like some fear came up when you were talking about looking at all the losses that were possible. What do you mean by that? Can you explain to the people what you mean?
Oh, 1,000%. So, the fear that came up was because of, now these are the words of the author, not mine. I thought I was defective for having feelings that others didn't. That is my childhood in a nutshell. I kept my emotions inside because I knew they were different than what others felt. And what I mean by that is my dad gave up his parental rights of me when I was young. And I loved that man. He's since passed. But I carried so much shame around that love that I had for him because who I was living with couldn't handle that. And so I was like trying to be respectful of theirs. And in doing so, I lost sight of who I really was and the shame that I wrapped around that. And then I get hit with, I always knew it was a loss. But the fact that I now have a tool in front of me that I could complete that, I didn't think I would be able to handle the feelings again. I felt like I had come so far. I put it in its box and there it was. So to open that box again, and I was so afraid of all those emotions. I was genuinely fearful. How am I going to handle this? Can I handle this? And are they going to drop me when I'm feeling the feelings? Right? Is there really a full solution here? Or is it just like, feel your feelings and you'll be fine? I was in fear over the steps of this.
Yes. So even just identifying it, and oh my gosh, can people relate? I don't know if everybody can relate to it, but parental rights, like giving up your parental rights. That is so huge. What a wound and what a loss. I mean, I know people would talk about feeling abandoned by a parent, but like literally legally. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would feel like for a child. And also, just like you said, the personalizing, making it about you as a child rather than it's totally about the parent. I mean, oh my gosh, what a huge. So even just thinking about doing this process that we're going to talk about is overwhelming to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a part of my identity. It was such a part of who I was, that who am I going to be without that? Who am I going to be without that turmoil inside, without that loss inside? Phenomenal.
God, that's a great point too. Like how we identify with when he talks about in the book about like, not that you weren't a victim to circumstances, but to do this work, you have to take responsibility for kind of how you are now with it.
Well, he did say that. He had said, if we believe someone else is responsible, we are unable to recover. Right? It's like the Scarlet Letter. I will always have that abandonment. It's who I am. I never knew I could complete it. Going back to that earlier thought, that's powerful.
Yes.
Complete the pain.
Yes. Right. And also like looking at what will that be like and you too, Aim, like what is it like to think about possibly completing that pain? And then how does it change our identity and our relationship to ourselves? Did you have a big one like that, Aim, or did you start looking at what were the ones that you started to notice were significant?
Well, for me, it was all about different relationships in my life. And a lot of different, I would say, and I'm not trying to minimize my experiences when I say this, but a lot of smaller scale losses that I had never allowed myself, never given myself permission to consider as
Yes.
losses, losses of, and even things like losses of a career that
Yes.
I traded in to be a stay-at-home mom, and even
Yeah.
things like that, concepts or dreams that I had that um that were replaced and supplanted with other dreams eventually, but sort of like, how interesting to acknowledge that
Yes.
that's a loss too, so
Yes.
that, anything that I'm still carrying from that can be put to rest and
Yes.
allow space for new dreams in my life.
Yes.
I thought it was fascinating.
Mm.
Yeah. And I also loved how, they said that they learned about grief, that what they had sort of gathered along the way was don't feel bad,
Yeah.
replace the loss, grieve alone, and just give it time. And
Yes.
that's how people sort of would naturally respond to somebody
Mhm.
who was grieving. And then it just listed all those different phrases that we so often, use. I know I have been guilty of using some of those in the past, and many have been used on me as well. And so that was kind of eye opening, like, oh, I'm so glad they listed
Have a
those.
cookie, you'll feel
And then,
better.
right. Yeah, have a cookie, which I'm like, okay, so yes, Gen X growing up in the 90s. Here's me with a Domino's pizza and a thing of Snackwell cookies.
Yes.
Yeah, I can relate, you know. So that,
Oh,
and then also things like miscarriage. I was glad
Mhm.
they brought up miscarriage
Mhm.
because I have a lot of kids, but I had 2 miscarriages, and I love how they said, the minute a woman conceives, she bonds with
yeah.
that child to be,
Right.
which is why it is so painful. And some of the decisions that need to be made around pregnancy sometimes are really painful. So I was
Oh,
glad
yeah.
he acknowledged that too, or they did.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because I interviewed this woman who we talked about grief, and the reason she reached out to me is she had had 6
Oh.
miscarriages. And she said that, and we talked a lot about how it's a part of women's lives that they don't often categorize as this grief. It's like, oh, we'll just get pregnant again or whatever.
Mhm.
And the losses and how her drinking just escalated and escalated and escalated. So it's such abortions
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
I mean, any losses of pregnancy or even, changes of a pregnancy, something happening to your child, a child being born with some kind of issue or
Mhm.
problem is a huge loss I've had with clients. Absolutely. I mean, parenting in general, we could talk about as a
Oh,
big
yeah.
loss. I mean, just a loss of an entire life, like you're talking about,
Mhm.
a shift in career. I mean, yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah, I do love how he broadened it to talk about. I was telling Erin before we started, there was several significant ones. I'd written letters to my mom, which was significant for me, and read it to a friend of mine, and she read one. And I am telling you, I have literally felt like that definitely got complete with my mother.
Mhm.
I followed all the directions. I read it. I sobbed. And I've written letters before, like anger letters and other things. But the way he had us do it, I don't know. It felt very complete.
Mhm.
And I did one also when my son went to college because I was feeling that significant loss. And that was another one that was really significant. But the ones that kind of surprised me where I was telling Erin, I had this best friend when I was in elementary school. And when we went to junior high school, she got to hang out with the cool kids. And I
Mhm.
I wasn't in the popular group. And how
Been there.
devastated. I mean, the first time we like saw each other in the hall and she didn't acknowledge me, I was devastated.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that just thinking about her and that wound, and then thinking about, geez, how did that impact me later? And another significant one that's around the friendship thing is when I was in a junior in high school, my brother, who was my closest brother, started dating my other best friend. And so I lost my brother and my best friend. Like, I'll never forget the first time she called and I answered the phone and she asked for my brother. And it was
Horrified.
I mean, I'm like, we used to talk on the phone for like 2 hours. I mean, you're in, and just how that shift of like thinking something's wrong with me because she chose my brother. I mean, I just look back at that. So and I've heard from patients for years and sponsees issues with female friendships when they're young and they shift. I mean, I think it is a very
So
significant loss for girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are
hard.
some
And that-
ones that I was surprised at. Go ahead.
I was just going to say too, and then watching your daughters or children or child go through something like that is just like, if you've been through it yourself, you get that whole mama bear thing that's just like, oh, they did what? They didn't include you? Like, well, I'm going to go down and talk to, like, I have done some things, y'all, that I was like, oh my gosh, like the time I walked onto the bus and I was like, hey, who's Tony? like, and this kid's like, and I was like, stop messing with my son, da 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 da. And like the bus was silent. And then I was like, and that's all I have to say. Bye. Like I just made an exit. But like all of that is from old wounds,
Yeah.
and unresolved things. And I love that you brought up friendship. Oh my goodness. My friendships have totally changed. I'm 49. I have 2 friends left over from the elementary school type era, but we don't talk. And it's not that we have any beef or anything. It's just that we don't see each other. We live in totally different states. Our lives look completely different. It's all fine. It's all like a natural part of just living, right? But to grieve that closeness, I think is totally valid.
Well, you're
And I never
essentially
even
grieving your childhood. It's you have lost your innocence, moving into adulthood.
Yes.
Yep. Well said.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so true. I mean, the friendship thing. And yes, that is a complete phenomenon. You nailed it. That could be a whole other episode when our own stuff, and very often it's around belonging. When our kids, like so many parents I know, that issue of like, if they don't fit into something or the people aren't accepting them and they're not belonging to some group or some friendship, it can activate us like no tomorrow. And I think partly it's because I would perceive that my child would be in the same kind of pain I would be feeling from my wound. And yet, who knows? I mean, it's very hard to untangle that all and figure out what's what. But yes, and those are losses from growing up. I mean, absolutely. And we were also talking about that where there's different periods of our lives where there seems to be more losses than others. I mean, depending how old you are, right? Or what's happened. Yeah. Any other significant ones that you guys want to mention before, or anything that surprised you that people might relate to? I had one other one that I could say too.
In terms of the process?
Well, in terms of just being surprised at something you notice, like Amy talking about the miscarriages, or surprised at the depth of the feelings, or maybe one that you thought would be significant and really wasn't.
Yeah. In fact, when we were in the process of putting on our timeline the positive memories above and the negative memories below,
Yeah.
seeing, in my mind, I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to have exactly what they are using as a standard. 2 above, 2 below, I'm good. I was blown away. I had so many positives, specifically with my dad, so many. But the weight of the negatives, although they were fewer in number, they were multiplied by millions. Like, I found that fascinating to see on paper. It blew me away. And the more positive I remembered, the more that would come to mind. And that just made me so happy. Like, it made me so happy.
Yes.
Just the visual alone, I found incredibly powerful.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, our perceptions of our history, there's this thing that actually is in the media lately, the negative bias. And supposedly we remember like 5 negatives to every 1 positive or something when we think of our history. So there's literally this huge negative bias when we think about our history. But when you write,
Well,
that's
of
why I always
course,
talk
right?
about the
It's
facts.
loss.
Yes.
Negative.
The feelings are so intense. But to look at the positives and to see that the perception might have been a little skewed or inaccurate is so powerful.
So powerful.
Yes. Right. Yeah. One other one I just wanted to say, and I'm going to get dark a little bit or deep, but one thing that I still I'm going to really start to work on this one, because I was surprised by it, is when I was a senior in high school, I had a really terrifying sexual assault. And when I was writing, and for the audience, part of the first step in the book is to make a timeline from birth to now of your losses. And when I was thinking about those losses, I put that on there, and I literally felt, and I don't know, I'm going to have to really do some work on this, like I totally lost myself. Like I couldn't even think about something specific. I literally felt like I disappeared. It was the weirdest feeling, like maybe because I didn't have a choice at that moment, or maybe because of how I felt so awful, because there were several people and they were laughing, and there's something about men laughing at you as a woman. I don't know, that's so humiliating. And I literally, I was trying to think, well, what did I lose? I mean, I felt like I lost dignity, or maybe my femininity, my innocence. I'm not sure, but I was surprised at the depth.
Yeah.
And so I am going to look at that one, and I'm not sure how I'm going to work on that, but I was really surprised by that. Yeah.
When we were instructed, when creating that timeline, to recall your dawn of conscious memory, did either of you have trouble with that, or were you surprised with what first came to mind? Like, I just remember being in my bedroom closet in a specific house, and I thought, why in the world is that coming to mind? I was waiting for a story to like emerge in my mind, and one never did. But that was my first conscious memory without, pictures, or just in my conscience.
Right. And how old were you? Were you like between 3 and 5?
I was 5.
5. Yeah. Yeah. I have thought of that before. Do you know what yours is, Aim?
I do. It is of this entire trip. it was my first airplane ride, and it was of this entire trip that I took with my parents to Boston to visit my uncle.
Oh,
And so it was like, I remember all these little details from that trip. And it's ironic a little bit now that I'm even saying it out loud, because, that's what I do today. Like, I travel all the time and I'm always on airplanes. So it's an interesting thing that that's my first conscious memory. But
Yes.
I told my mom that. I shared that with her, I don't know, a while ago. And she was like, "How do you remember that?" Like, she was blown away.
Wow.
I don't
were
know,
you
but
younger
yeah,
than 5?
I was 3.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't remember what I had for breakfast, to be clear. So, I don't know why I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh.
I find the brain really fascinating too. Like, that whole line of the questioning on the negatives and positives and the things that we, latch on to. Or have you ever had somebody say something to you and you're just like, I'm going to remember that? Like, I mean, not that you even want to remember it in
Mhm.
some
Right.
cases, but just like, for
Right.
whatever reason, it's synchronicity or whatever, it
Mhm.
like just was imprinted
Yeah.
on
Yes.
you. It's just the
Yeah.
strangest thing.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about the process that they give in the book, just for the people listening or watching, they talk about writing this letter.
Mm.
And it's called the completion letter. And first you do this timeline of your losses, then you pick one to work on. And then, like Erin and Amy are saying, you kind of put down the positives and the negatives. And then the other thing he talks about, and you just made me think of this, is emotional impact statements. So something that someone said, and like it could be the one negative in a field of 100 positive, but it's the one thing you remember about this interaction.
Mhm.
And so writing out whatever those impact statements were and how you felt about them is really significant. So, I mean, I agree. There are certain things that my mother has said to me. There's something my present partner said to me one time that literally I talked to him the other day about, that to him it meant nothing, but to me it just activated something. So the way someone says something, what they're saying could remind us of something else. So it is really significant,
And the
an
power
important part.
that I found when I could couple that with either I forgive you for saying, or I apologize for using what you said as my whole identity with you. I found that
Yes.
so like simplistically healing. I
Yes.
can't put it any other way. It was phenomenal to me how direct we're taught to be in this letter. There's no
Yes.
wishy-washy, this is what it is, and I forgive you. And
Right.
period.
Right.
Phenomenal.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I know
I have
there's some, everybody has thoughts about grief. And I know there are some people that believe you don't have to totally forgive to move on. Like, definitely there's schools of thought like that. There's schools of thought that you don't have to forgive people. But I don't know. I mean, I just really feel like if I can't get to that place, I'm going to still be holding on.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, if you've lost a child, or I mean, there are things where you transform and become a new person. You may not get over it. So I totally understand that. I mean, that's the other thing about grief that I was going to mention. And he talks about that there's losing my guinea pig when I'm 5 years old. And then there's people losing their husbands of 40
Yeah.
years. I mean, there's all grief is not the same,
And there's
because
huge
all
difference.
relationships are not the
There's a
same.
huge
Go ahead.
difference between saying, I have to let go of this pain versus I have
Yes.
to let go of you. Like, nowhere in
Yes.
all of this were we ever told that the memory of a certain particular person loses its meaning. In fact, I run in just the opposite. It's more treasured. But we find the love of ourselves. Like, I can't hold on to this pain anymore. Goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
wow. Mm.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that is just so powerful, I feel
Mhm.
like, because it just gives you that whole new, pair of glasses. And I also find it interesting how sometimes with some relationships, I've been able to see that person with a fresh, whole new light.
Yeah.
And then other times, not so much, and I can think of one familial relationship where it's like, I have done so much work around it. And it just it's changed over time, which is great. I see a little bit of progress, but it is just still so hard for me. And I think sometimes being in that acceptance that this may never change and that that's okay. And just letting it be what it's going to be and let it unfold the way it will, even if that means it doesn't really change or I still have a lot of similar feelings around it. But the thing it has given me, which is a gift, is it has shown me where a lot of my triggers are. And so if someone says something like, you're dumb, you're stupid, oh, you're pretty, it's a good thing, whatever, it's a good thing that you don't require any brains, something like that, it will just remind me, okay, those are all old wounds and that's on that person. And it's helped me to see that.
Right.
It helps
Oh my
you
God,
see
all of a
how
sudden-
unresolved they are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, and also just help me to see, that it's just a reminder. Those are threads of old stuff, and I think that it's like, and I just have to gently say to myself, you know what? I love you. You're not that. And, that's somebody else's perception of you, or they were joking, but it's like not funny, to me. I'm triggered by it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can get so triggered by sarcasm because my father was so sarcastic when we were young, and he would say mean things, but they were supposed to be funny. But yeah, I mean, and when you were just saying those, I'm like, who could treat you that? Like my immediate defense is like, I can't believe anybody would say that to you. Like, you don't deserve any of that. And so I think that's another piece too. If we're used to someone saying that, then it's also like, yeah, we can get to a different place with people, but we can also have boundaries with people, right? I mean, we can also say what's acceptable and unacceptable. I mean, which is hard with family members, right? But yes, I guess it's not about having the other people change. It's about hopefully we're going to change and our relationship maybe internally will change, our expectations. Like if you see someone, I mean, that's what happened when I did the letter about my mom. I saw her from like a completely different place as an alcoholic with an abusive husband who had 5 kids and actually did amazing instead of how I saw it. Like she just wasn't there at all. But I mean, you can see things from an entirely different angle, right? When you do some of this work.
Well, and I think that and meaning the authors of this book, where it's different is they say, take the action and then the feelings will happen, as opposed to any other work that I've done on loss before has feel the feelings, which I could not do. I would have to numb them. I couldn't feel that hurt. And so I would never take an action to complete this pain. I found that incredible when they talked about how, people are helped by this process, having significantly lost, even like a physical loss the week before versus 40 years ago. I found that incredible. And I found that like, well, there's my part. By not taking an action, I'm prolonging this pain. And therefore I'm using it as part of my personality. Like, this is just who I am. I found that really fascinating.
Yes. Well, and we all know people like that. I can think of people I know on meetings that are so over-identified with their pain, and it's become their personality.
Yes.
And it's almost like it's like someone who's like super angry all the time. Who would they be without their anger? I mean, it is something to think about. And I'm going to whip through, and you guys throw in what you believe also. I wrote down a list of what I thought are consequences of unresolved grief. So I just kind of wrote down the things that came to mind. So depression, anger, panic attacks. These are based on people I've known or my own experience. So not resolving your grief or identifying your grief could result fatigue, addictions, obviously, right? Substitution, busyness, avoiding, shutting down, fear of intimacy, fear of abandonment, irritability, detaching from ourselves, detaching from others, falling in love. I wrote relationship addiction because whenever, I'm sure you guys have known people who break up with someone and 2 weeks later they're in love with someone else, right? So relationship addiction or sex addiction, physical problems, sleep issues, compulsive behavior, difficulty in thinking, concentrating. And then I just wrote a general lack of aliveness. I mean, I think when people are stuck in the loss, there's a certain shutdownness. I don't know.
I could add
what do you
denial
think?
to that list.
Please.
Denial.
Yes.
Like when my grandmother passed away, right hand to God, I told myself, I had two very small babies at the time. She's just in Florida. She's just away. And I believed that lie, and I never mourned her properly. Well, according to this handbook, never. But I never dealt with that loss in a healthy way until my children were a little bit older. I completely denied her passing.
Well, and you wonder if part of that is like how you coped and survived. It's like, gosh, if I have two young children, am I going to be able to go through this loss? I mean, I do think that's a really great point. It's like when you're parenting and you're just in survival.
Yes.
How do
day to day.
I thought of my mother who lost two siblings when we were little. And I'm like,
Wow.
she just drank. I mean, how are you going to process that and raise 5 children? I mean, but like you said, I mean, that could have been a way you're just trying to survive.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, that sounds like overwhelm. Just complete, like, I can't do that and this right now. So I just have to do this.
Yes.
And so, it's just amazing how our minds sometimes can compartmentalize like that. And then all of a sudden you wake up and it's like all these years later.
I know.
Like,
oh my God, that's another loss. You know, I was driving somewhere today and I went by Bo's elementary school. And all of a sudden, and Bo, my son, as people know, is 24 now. And I mean, I just had those real, I don't know, stomach feelings inside of those times. And I mean, Erin's got 2 kids. Amy has 8 children. Okay. We don't know how she's walking around. That's all I have to say. And some of yours have left the house, right? And gone to college, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
When my youngest went to college, I was on this obsessive mission to find the perfect pair of black heels. That was going to solve whatever was going on. I didn't know it. I never equated it to empty nest, let alone a loss. I just needed those black heels.
Yes, I get that.
Of course. It all makes total sense to us. Yeah.
Projected on something
But it's
else.
a great point. Yeah. Focused on something. If I can just get really focused on one thing, I don't have to feel.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. All right. I mean, we recommend this book to everybody. What Besides the letter writing, is there anything else you guys would suggest to the audience if they're going through some grief or they're avoiding some grief? Any things you can think of that might be helpful to people when they're going through stuff? I mean, I thought of a few, like support and connection, obviously self-care. I also always say it's not linear. Your grief experience is your grief experience. Honor how it goes. What else?
Yep.
I adored
Well,
that section of the book where it talked about like no one is ever going to experience your experience as you have.
Yes.
I found that like so it made me not
Yes.
want to hide how I was feeling about particular losses. Like it gave me permission to be okay with how I was feeling. There's no
Yes.
right or wrong. It's so individual.
Yes. Yes.
And no timeline on it. You know how I had lost an ex-boyfriend to the disease of alcoholism. I call it alcoholism, alcohol use disorder, whatever you prefer. But
Yes.
last year, and I continued to like text his brother. I saw his brother at the funeral. We reconnected, but I continued to text him throughout the year because you know how it is, like sort of when something is acute. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, like a month later, everybody else's lives have resumed around that loss and that death. And then, it's like your world remains shattered,
Right.
and just trying to get the emotions of daily life. And
Yes.
so I thought about that. But then the other thing, in answer to your question, Dr. Sarah, things that might help people, what only sort of just came to mind was when we were talking about just a few minutes ago, the whole concept of, for lack of a better term, being triggered or having emotions come up around people, places, and things, driving by your son's elementary school, whatever. And what I was going to say in regards to that is sometimes I don't know exactly, like I'll have to just go, there's something under that,
Yes.
like I want to put a pin in that and
Yes.
just kind of think about that or explore that with a therapist or with whoever. And I was just going to say, like, to listen to that inner knowing or intuition that there might be something there that maybe leads a little loving
Right.
care and attention.
Yes. No, that's so beautiful. And the word that everybody's using now that I love also is, instead of being critical or judgmental towards yourself, the curiosity, right? Just be curious. Like you say, just put a pin in it. Just be curious. Geez, why did that happen today? What's happening for me right now that's coming up? Just being curious about it without judgment. Like Erin said, there's no right or wrong. And the last thing that you guys also are touching on is he talks about a significant piece is making meaning out of the event. So I've definitely had certain losses, like when my ex-husband passed away, and and then this great stuff came out of it. I ended up writing a book out of it. And so it's like, and some people say, oh, that's super hard to do, but it's really, I think, important to try to figure out in an empowering, not that you're not feeling the loss, but an empowering interpretation of some kind of meaning of the event. Because otherwise, I think we get so stuck in the powerlessness and hopelessness even.
And if it wasn't meaningful, we wouldn't feel loss. There's a lot, and I love that. In the letter, we could thank them for that. Thank you for being a meaningful part of my life.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yes. Creating meaning out of loss. Right. Yeah. Yeah. okay, this might be a part one. We've talked about a lot. Maybe we'll come back and visit some of this again. And any last words, you guys? Thank you so much. This is not an easy topic to discuss. We recommend the book.
Yes.
Respond in the comments. Let us know what your grief experience has been like. And if you related to any of this, please let us know. This is a thing that, to me, every human being goes through, and yet in our culture, there's no space or time. And it's the most bizarre thing when you think about it. Like, all human beings experience it, yet there's no space for it. So we are here to give you space, to give all of us space to have, to have a conversation about it, to give it room to talk about it. So any last words, you guys?
Complete the pain. Incredible.
Amen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
My last words would just be that, maybe this is something like they kind of alluded to, that we could start teaching
Yes.
early on,
Oh,
teaching our kids
yeah.
early on
Right?
how to grieve. And
Yes. Yeah. And normalize it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The last thing I'll say is that I was driving home yesterday with my sweetheart, and we went to visit his stepdad's 99.
Aw.
99. And he's going really slowly, and now he's just in a bed laying there, but he's wide awake. And his mom's 85 taking care of him, and we're driving home. And Tom says, "Wow, I feel so heavy, and I'm so sorry I'm not really myself today." And I said, "You're feeling grief and sadness.
Yes.
You might have just visited your stepdad for the last time." But it was such a great example of, we pathologize and we don't make space for this normal process.
I feel
And
like
it's
we
normal.
need like a little sign. Congratulations, you're human. Right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think of all the times where I wish someone had shown that to me, because we would swallow
Yes.
the grief, whatever we needed to
Yes.
do. We're human. We're meant to feel.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. We are just having this human experience and just being okay with it, no matter what it is. There's no right way to feel.
Mhm.
And, it's funny because even I have felt not that much pain over certain significant people that I didn't have deep relationships with. And that's okay too.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's all okay.
Mhm.
So we are out of here. Please tune in to the Boozeless Book Club. We love you all, and we're going to see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.